Tools and Means. Written and read by John Miro. Episode 9. Fear and pain shook Claire from head to toe. She tried to stand, but couldn't, not yet. She put her head to the ground and cried. "Please forget I was here." That's what the man had said. After the blue light poured into his head, and he started to slice my wrist open, and then stopped. Just when Claire had convinced herself to pass out, to wait for someone to pass by in the hall, see the ruined door, and come rescue her, the smell hit her. She had known George Newell was dead. Smelling what was leaking past all his relaxed muscles and leaking out of his slashed neck was what convinced her body to move. She felt her stomach rising again and moaned through clamped shut lips. She scrambled to her feet and fled the room. The world spun. She stumbled around the massive planter on the floor and fell into one wall hard, knocking what little wind she had out of her. She got her hands on the door and pushed her way through, fighting the urge of panic to get away from the body, the memory of what had happened in that room. Outside, she staggered on her feet. What should she do now? Call the police? Hotel security? Or run away and hide? Behind her, a heavy door rang as it shut. Claire jumped and spun, her fists raised and her feet in an ugly version of a fighting stance. It had been the stairwell door closest to the senator's room. Through the tiny wire mesh window, she saw a man there. The man. He passed out of sight. Her head still rang. A shudder rippled over her head, her cheeks, down her neck, and she fought the wave of dizziness that came with it. She raised one hand to her forehead. It came away wet. Red. That was the senator's work. The first blow. She should be dead. She was on the floor. The senator had been leaning over. Blue light had stabbed at her eyelids when the door had exploded. Her mind put the pieces together quickly. The fight, the stabbing. Her eyes opened wide. It had all been premeditated. The senator's attack on her, and the man's attack on the senator. She had been in the wrong place at the wrong time twice over. But he let her live. No, he saved her. And then the blue light. A mindless roar of pain echoed from the stairwell. The sound jerked Claire out of the maze of her thoughts. She ran for the door. By the time Tom made it to the ground floor, sweat poured down his back. Every muscle sang with pain, and the presence in his mind still tried to hijack every footstep. He refused. A call went out, a torrent of fury and anger. It resists. Tom jerked his hands up to cover his ears, though there had been no sound. He tumbled through a laughing crowd of late-night partygoers before he could stop himself. He ignored their curses, and then he ignored their offers of help when he sagged against a wall. He had no energy to rout outwards to deal with the angry words, the harsh push back into the wall from one of the partygoers. And then the group hurried away from his problems, leaving him alone again with the new voice in his mind. It resists! The scream burned his thoughts away. He sank back to his knees. He fell onto his back. His eyes stared upwards, paralyzed again. Would the partiers now rushing away call the authorities? Someone would. He would be discovered. The body of his friend from Chicago would be found, and Dr. Romer would send them after him. They would learn all about him, and they would not understand. Trapped with his thoughts again, his mind came close to breaking, as it had when Bob had come to his home to take his family from him one by one. One sob escaped his prison of flesh. A shadow fell over him, but he couldn't wrestle back control enough even to flick his eyes. It hurt so much, more painful than anything he'd ever felt. A dry chuckle drifted down. Tom knew it. Tom feared it. He hated it. They'll think you're just like me now, you know? He felt the cold, unstoppable call going out again. Something screamed out in return. Something racing closer. We are coming! And they're not coming for you, kid. The familiar voice again. The chuckle again. They're coming for what's shitting in your brain. Bob's words lashed Tom. His lips curled in a snarl. He'd done that, he realized. It was his own snarl. Stupid fucking kid. What are you even doing here? Never could keep your mouth shut. Always squealed through my special time with your sister. Tom turned his head. An inch, no more. Just enough to see the shadow he hated so much. The one he'd seen every day since that shape stepped between him and the sun one lazy summer day. Since the shadowy outline stepped past him, on up the stairs into his home, like Tom was nothing, like he wasn't worth a thought. His fingers twitched. Since he let that man walk into his family home without even a word of challenge, just sat dumbly on the front stairs, his hands clenched into fists. The thing inside him shrieked, "Hurry! It's taking control!" Guess you and me are gonna get to spend some quality time together in a box. The voice he'd heard every day since letting its maker in to spill his mother's blood. "Aw, Tommy gonna cry?" He knelt beside Tom, the one who'd spilled his father's blood, his sister's blood. The voice chuckled. "Gonna cry hard, Tommy? Can I watch?" Tom screamed and smashed his left fist against the stucco facade of the hotel again and again and again. But Bob leaped up out of the way of the blows. "Oh boy, got a good hit of steam, don't ya?" The pressure in his head redoubled its efforts, took control of his eyes again, and stared back at the taunting shadow he knew wasn't there. And it knew Bob wasn't real, too. The host is diseased. Tom felt his body stiffen again, robbing him of control again. The thing slithering through his thoughts was learning how to pull his strings. Bob's shadowy form stiffened, too. The muscles rippled under the skin of his face. His laugh changed, and blue light grew in the black pits of his eyes. "We will smother your pain," it said, in a mockery of Bob's voice, as the blue light grew into flames that engulfed the phantom eyes. "We will have control." Images battered through Tom's mind at high speed. He was seeing the photo album of his life, but someone else was turning the pages. His father's face up close. God, Tom had forgotten what he'd looked like. And then, just as he'd recognized the man, the image turned to black. Now his mother, leaning her hips against him and tousling his hair. Oh, he missed her smile. Then the smile faded and disappeared. Then he saw Allison smushing a snowball into his face at close range, her face alive in a way it never was now. His heart ached, and he whimpered for her to hold him, even as she fell apart like wisps of smoke. It was taking them, taking the memories of them away from him, eating the memories of them. He knew it wouldn't stop there. The thing in his head meant to hollow out everything that was Tom Brogan, starting with the ones he loved most, and the pain of their loss. What would he be without his pain? Tom struggled to hold on to something, anything of who he was. The image of his white painted front porch flashed through his mind, and he grabbed it, remembered the feel of the painted wood, paint peeling off on the steps, remembered the creak of the chains holding the swinging bench to the rafters where his mother and father sat together after dinner and watched the sun set. The sound of that chain clinking disappeared. The child Tom had been reached out to touch the wood of the porch, but his fingers sank through. No. The smell of the lilacs vanished. The light faded, and all the world that was went black. Everything melted away, every sensation, every shared laugh and pain, every moment of his life, everything that was Tom was erased. Tom couldn't remember what was wrong, what he was fighting, who he was. He had been in so much pain. It was gone now. The blackness had taken it. And now it could take Tom, too. You have been listening to Tools and Means. Title music, Infiltrate This, by Atlas Plug. Used with permission. For show notes, more information, and other fiction by me, John Muro, please visit servingworlds.com. Thank you for listening.